Kuzu Zambol, Bhutan e-learning project welcomes all the students of Bhutan in this geography lesson. I am Desumnyim Dorji, a teacher at Gedo Higher Secondary School, and today we will learn about climate and factors affecting climate. As usual, before we start with our lesson, let us look at what are the things that you need to remember at the end of this lesson. The first thing that you need to remember is you should be able to differentiate between weather and climate. And the second thing that you need to remember here is you should be able to name and explain the factors affecting climate. Are you all ready? Okay. Now let's look at the differences between climate and weather. Many of us get confused with the words weather and climate. So now I am here to clear the confusion between weather and climate. Are you all ready? If so, let's roll them. Weather is an atmospheric condition for a short period of time in a place. Are you getting my point? If you are confused, let me give some examples. For example, in the morning it was a bright sunny day. During the noon, it became very cloudy. And after some time, it rained. Later, towards the evening, it was very windy. Why am I saying this? The sudden shift of atmospheric condition from morning till evening, these changes are called weather. Whereas on the other hand, we have climate. So climate is an average weather condition for a longer period of time. For example, in Thailand, it is very hot. For them, the seasons are hot, hotter, and hottest. Whereas in Bhutan, the season, the temperature, and the season varies from cold, colder, and coldest. Now, what do you get from this? We cannot make Thailand, or Thailand cannot change from hot to very cold place in a short period of time. It takes millions of years sometimes. So basically, climate is an average weather condition for a longer period of time, and experts say that typically it will be calculated within 30 years of time. This is the difference between weather and climate. Did you get my point? Okay. Now, let's discuss together about the factors affecting the climate. There are different factors that affects the climate. And when I say factors affecting climate, you must understand that what makes climate change or weather change in different parts of the world. For example, why is Gaza cold? Why is Finland hot? So basically we are discussing the factors. There are 6 factors that we are going to discuss in this class, in this lesson. And the first factor that we are going to discuss is, do you remember? What is it? It is latitude. The second factor that we will discuss together is, I know you are very smart, intelligent. You can keep everything in your mind in a short period of time. And the second factor is altitude. The third factor that we will discuss together again is prevailing directions of wind. And the fourth factor that we will discuss together is, say it aloud. Okay, it is orientation of mountain ranges. And the fifth factor that we will look at it is, okay, it is local wind. The sixth factor, the last factor that we will look at is, yeah, it is vegetation. Correct. Okay, ready to rock? Ready to roll. Okay, now let's discuss the first factor. It is latitude. When we hear the word latitude, and to understand the latitude, we need to have a clear picture of the shape of the earth and the sun. Now, I'm not talking about the shape of the sun. I am talking about the rays of the sunlight. Shape of the earth is oblate spirit. We all know that. It's bulging at the center. And the light that comes from the sun will directly hit at the bulging center of the earth, that is equator. Which means the places and the countries around the equator will get direct sunlight. Whereas as someone moves away from the equator towards the north and towards the south, these places receive slanting rays of the sunlight. The heat energy of the slanting rays of the sunlight will not be strong. It becomes weak, weaker, 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 and the weakest by the time it reaches North Pole and South Pole. Now, let's bring ourselves back to our country. Bhutan is located at the north of Tropic of Cancer in the northern hemisphere. In the northern hemisphere at the latitude of 28 degrees north, which means there will be variation of seasons. There will be variation of temperature in different seasons. For example, in winter we feel cold, during summer we feel hot, and different temperature in different season. So, this is due to the location of our country. We are located in the northern hemisphere at the 28th degree north. That is the reason why we experience cold winter and hot summer. Whereas countries like Thailand, Sri Lanka, they experience less variation in seasons. Hot in winter, hotter and hottest in summer, just like in Thailand. The latitude is one factor that determines or affects the climate of a place. Now, the second factor that we are going to discuss here is altitude. Bhutan, if you look at the map here, places like Phinxling, Samjongkhar, Gyelephu, Samchi, they are at 200 meters above the sea level. When we climb up towards Thimphu, which means we are climbing up towards the colder places. Why is that? Why is it hot in Phinxling and why is it cold in Gaza? It is because of altitude. It means as we move higher, as we climb higher, the temperature decreases, altitude increases. When temperature decreases, we feel cold. The temperature decreases because of the air. As we move up higher, the air becomes thinner. As we climb down towards the southern foothills, the air becomes thick and it is warm and hot. And the temperature is high. So this is the reason why the places in southern foothills of our country experience warm in winter and hot in summer, whereas places on the top of mountains like Gaza, they feel warm summer and very cold winter. It is because of altitude. The third factor that we are going to discuss here is prevailing wind direction. To understand this concept, you need to look from the broader picture. Therefore, let us look at the map of Asia. In the map of Asia, you can see the Central Asia. In this region, you can see countries like Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan. All Than countries are located in Central Asia. Now, what I am trying to say here is, in this region, in winter, in this region, this region will get less amount of sunlight due to the slanting rays of the sun. Now, what happens when it receives less amount of sunlight? The high pressure will be developed and the air will be heavy. So when the air is heavy and high pressure is developed over this region, the wind blows towards the south in the warm areas where there is low pressure. During that time in winter, we experience cold, dry wind. And this is one factor that determines or affects the climate of our country. And same thing gets reversed now during the summer. Now, lowlands or the Indian subcontinents or Indian oceans, during the summer what happens is the high pressure will be developed. High pressure will be developed in this area, and because it gets the direct sunlight and the wind moves towards the north, towards Tibetan Plateau. Now what happens when the wind blows from the south towards north? It carries moist. And when it hit against the tall and giant Himalayan mountains, it drops the rain. And this is the reason why we receive rainfall during the monsoon season. So this is another factor. The wind direction is another factor that affects the climate of a particular place. The fourth factor that we are going to discuss here is orientation of mountain ranges. Bhutan's mountains are perpendicular to the main Himalayan mountain range. So in this, what happens? The mountain facing towards east will receive the sunlight in the morning. As the earth moves around and towards the evening, the west facing slopes of mountain will receive the sunlight. What does it mean? It means that in the morning, the east facing slopes will receive the sunlight, it will hit the place, and the temperature will increase. Whereas in the afternoon, the west facing slopes will receive the sunlight and the temperature increases. This is why some places is warm and hot in the morning, and in some places it is warm and hot in the afternoon. So this is another factor that affects the climate. Now let's talk about the fifth factor that affects the climate. It is local wind. Mountain landscapes tend to develop their own wind system. How is that? During the morning, the top of the mountain receives the sunlight, which creates high pressure, and wind blows from the mountain top towards the valley. And during the afternoon, the valleys, the low areas, receive the sunlight, and wind blows because of the high pressure created down. The wind blows towards the mountain top. So this is another important factor that affects the climate. The last factor that we will discuss here is vegetation. It is a simple concept to understand. Wherever the places are green, fresh air are produced, which means the temperature will remain low. Whereas on the other hand, if you look at this metropolitan city where gases are produced, where carbon air is produced, it hits the atmosphere and the temperature rises. So therefore, my point here is that vegetation plays an important role in determining the climate of a place. Just look at the cities where there are lots of skyscrapers, lots of cars on the street, people dwelling there, and compare it with the beautiful Phobjika Valley. You will see the difference. And these are the things that I really wanted my dear children to know about it. When you get time, go out, feel it yourself, see how our weather affecting our daily lives. But remember, don't go in places where there are lots of people gathered. Don't forget to wash your hands. Before that, we will do a task together. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you very much for being at home, exploring yourself, getting deep into yourself and exploring the talents. And wish you all the best for learning from television. learning from Google Classroom. Happy stay there. Bye bye.